Hey Siri, what's the weather?
It's currently clear and 21 degrees. Today's high will be 34, and the low will be 20.
Hey Siri, what's the weather in Celsius?
It's currently clear and -6 degrees. Today's high will be 1, and the low is -7.
Thank you, Siri.
No problem.
So, what I want to talk to you about in this part is staying in shape and being old, like me, 61. Now, I'm not talking about running 10 miles a day or going to gyms or anything like it. I mean, if you're a guy that works out every day, hey, good for you. But you're going to find, even if you work out, even if you train, okay, understand something. When you start sleeping in a tarp or a tent, you're going to find out that there are muscles you're going to use that you're not used to using. Like you got to get down on your knees. You got to crawl. To sit up, you're using your stomach muscles. You're sitting in the tent on your butt. This is just part of tarp camping. And a lot of people, even if they work out, they don't use those particular muscles. So when morning comes after they've tarp camped, for example, or tent, they have a hard time moving. They're all bent over, their backs hurt. I mean, there is a lot more to this than just enduring the winter or the weather. Okay? And by doing it, once a week or whatever on a regular basis, you are strengthening those muscles. So, let's say you've been doing this for 3 months, once a week, and all of a sudden shit hit the fan, and now you got to come home. Your first night out for a guy that's used to it is going to be like, no big deal. Pack it up and go. The guy that doesn't do it, that just has a get-home bag with some basic stuff in it, it doesn't matter how light that bag is. When he goes to stand up after sleeping the night, he's going to be in so much pain. It's going to take him an hour to get those muscles, back into shape to get going. And by the third day, it'll be even worse. And that's a big plus. So you've seen commercials on TV that people laughed at, when I was growing up. Help, I can't get up, I've fallen. And I mean, that's true. It is. When you get like my age, 61, and it's time to get up, it's very difficult for a guy my age to crawl out of his tarp and then stand up. Now, I have worked around that where if I'm bringing a trekking pole or if I have a walking stick, that'll lay outside the tarp or the tent, and then as I crawl out, I'll grab it and grab a hold and help myself up. These are important things to really understand. Now, another person might crawl over to a tree and use the tree to get themselves up. But sometimes I find it much easier to stand up than I do to go down on my knees. Because if you just fall and your knee hits a rock, then you could really hurt yourself. And that's very important. I usually have my chair set up or I have my walking stick. And when I go to get down on my knees, I'll have that beside me. So there is no accident of me falling down and hitting my knees. That's very important. Now, I don't move the speed of a 20-year-old either. These guys are doing 20, 25 miles a day. I can do 12 really comfortable. I can do 15 if I push myself. But doing like 20, 25 that these guys do, there's no way, not at 61. Now, maybe if I was doing it every day on the Appalachian Trail, and after a month, maybe I would, as your knees and your hips and everything get into more control. It's what happens. But it's very, very important to understand that these muscles are going to deal with these certain pains. And and it ain't much fun, if you decide you want to go camping or tent camping or whatever, and those type of pains kick in. Now, another thing an old person is dealing with is arthritis. I do have arthritis. And there's just some nights my hands, my ankles, my knees, oh, they're killing me, is what there is. Now, I don't take any aspirin. I just kind of push through it because that stuff's not good for your kidneys. But, or your liver, I can't remember. But overall, it's just part of getting old. And for example, if you have arthritis, then your hands start to hurt. Well, the cold will affect your hands. Thus, the reason, for a really good pair of gloves. And the warmer I can keep my hands and the warmer I can keep my feet, the better it is when you have arthritis. Because they'll kind of mess with you when you're trying to get to where you're going. That's for sure. So if you're going to do winter camping when you're, 55 and above, you are required to understand your body through ache and pains, through arthritis, or whatever other diseases you may have. You have to understand all that. Medication, you need to take it with you. Now, you have to understand that certain medications work differently. Like, for example, if you're not really getting any exercise, you're walking around the house, you're eating chips, whatever, your medication you're taking is probably set up for that. But if all of a sudden now you're walking with a 40-pound pack like I do, and, well, you may well end up with not needing as much medication. So you're going to have to monitor yourself. You really got to understand your body. And nobody else is going to do that but you. And that's the thing. Now, I had one gentleman ask me a question about something he had wrong where he had a lot of pain with his hands and stuff if he got cold. And I actually had to research it and look it up and stuff. And I was like, wow, that sucks, because he wants to do some winter camping. Without no money, there's no way he can do winter camping. I'm sorry, it just ain't happening. I mean, in his situation, he's probably better off in to go into hot tent camping. And that's where you run a stove and you fill it with wood and you keep it going and you keep it very, very warm inside a hot tent. You can get those hot tents up to 120 degrees, if not more. But you got to keep that wood in there. And that's probably the best way for him to go. But I would actually have a pair of gloves and stuff like this just in case if the fire goes out or whatever. But you have to understand what you can do, okay? What your limits are. If you have medical problems or you have medical history or you're not in the best of shape, or, I've seen some guys on YouTube that weigh like 400 pounds, and that's huge. And they're out there doing bushcrafting. Every video I see on them, I never see them camping. I never see them laying in a tent. They probably need a breathing machine or something. Now, and I'm sure they get trolled pretty hard. But understanding your own limitations is very, very important. Now, I'm not no spring chicken, and I'm not a guy that, I do have a belly. And, I'm probably 20 pounds too much overweight. But when you start to get old over 55, it is a battle. I've heard people say, oh, watch your calories. Oh, give me a break. God almighty. When you start getting 60 years old and they say the average male lives to 72, 75, I don't know, something like that. Well, what does that mean? I got like 10 years left if we go by those statistics. So for the next 10 years, I should starve myself and be able to lift my shirt and say, check it out, I don't have a belly. Look at me. No. I think I'm going to have some Fritos. Life is short. Enjoy the time you got left, but there is a point to no return where, you're too heavy. And the funny thing is, when people are extremely heavy, you start getting 300, 400 pounds or in that range, it's actually very easy for them to lose a good amount of that weight. Literally just remove sugar. That's it. If you drink coffee with milk and sugar, well, the milk condenses into sugar and the sugar turns to sugar. I mean, I drink coffee black. That's how I drink it. I drink tea black. I don't drink any fruit juices whatsoever. I don't drink orange juice, apple juice. That's all pure sugar. I don't drink any of that stuff. My major two things I drink is black coffee and black tea. That's it. Sometimes just changing one or two things in a person's diet will help them to lose a lot of weight very quickly. They can drop 100 pounds fast because they have so much excess weight. And that's very important. So, but like being aware of your body and how much pain you're in or what you're dealing with or weight, sometimes just taking 50 pounds off your body is a big difference on those knees. So really think about what you're doing. And let's say you're the type of guy that has a good looking body. You don't work out. You don't have to do nothing. You're one of these guys that magically have a nice body. It doesn't mean anything. Understand that right now, especially when you go tarp camping or tent camping. If you're not used to using those muscles along the side of your knees, down the inside of your legs, places like that, then you are going to hurt yourself. Because you get all half cocked in your head that I'm okay, I'm not overweight, I can do this. That's not true. I'm telling you, it's not. You could be a guy that weighs 240 pounds and you go out once a week camping or tenting and you just enjoy the wilderness. You get down on your hands and knees and crawl. You get up. You know, that guy is going to do far better than the guy that has no weight because he's used to it. He's conditioned his body to it. And that's very important. So consider that. So I'm going to lay down and get some shut-eye, and maybe I'll be back later, and I'll give you an update.